Good morning, dear students. Today, in my short lecture video, I just want to tell you regarding the research methodology brief concepts. Especially, I will like to demonstrate on how to prepare your research journey for a thesis. Okay. So let's start about the introduction part, that how a student will start the research journey. First, I will like to tell you that what we understood by the term research. As I pronounce the term, you understood research. That means you have to search again and again and you have to find out something new. Okay. And you see that research means a scientific and systematic examination of existing facts or knowledge that can be said as literature review. So as I told you that today our objective in this short video is to tell you regarding the guidance of your thesis preparation. Okay. So let's start how to start your research journey. Okay. First, I would like to tell you that you have to focus. You have to focus specifically first on the literature survey, which is sometimes known as literature review. Whatever the topic you are thinking for, you have to explore the different existing literature. Literature means what? It may be journals, it may be books, it may be documentary, it may be cases, it may be so many things. Okay. Why you should go for this? Because you need to know that what are the existing problems are there at the domain which you are supposed to explore later on. So you need to know what is the existing research gap. Without knowing the research gap, you cannot have any steps forward. You cannot have these options that you can move forward. So first thing, you need to know what is the research gap. And what will be the way through which you will start your research journey? That means I'm talking about literature review part. You have to begin your journey with the latest literature to the backward, at least 10 to 15 years. Sometimes people are asking us that what number of research papers will be sufficient for us. No one can tell you. Believe me that there is no straightforward answer that someone can tell you that yes, 10, 15, 20, 100 research paper will be sufficient for your research. No one can tell you. So what we should do? We should focus. We should focus at least 10 to 15 years work which have been done by the different researchers. And we need to find out that what is the summary of these, what are the methodology they have followed, and what they ultimately gain or obtain from his or her research work. And we have to sum up these things. You may use some Excel. You may have different tools so that you can keep these documents, whatever you obtain. Please make a note that you have to copy the link of the paper, because at the later part when you have 70, 75 or papers already being explored, you may have some difficulties to find out the actual paper from which you got so many information. So whenever we will extract the information, we will keep the link of the paper, the findings of the paper, methodology that obtained, all these things. Okay. And how I will choose that, yes, this paper will be efficient or sufficient for my research work? It entirely depends on the citation score. If you have the access in Scopus database, Web of Science database, even in the Google Scholar, you can find out the site score at the below of the paper. And you have to count, you have to choose those papers which have the good citation score. So you can find out, yes, these are the relevant paper for my journey. And once you will have these, at least 70 to 75 papers, but I again tell you that the quantity cannot be suffice your research. But you have to start with, suppose now we are in 2025. You have to start your research journey from 2025 and you have to go back. And then after this review of literature, I would like to tell you that you have to find out research gap. That is most crucial things. And once you will have the research gap, you have to find out the objectives, how you can cater this gap through the objectives. Objectives means what you want to prove, what you want to do. Depend on the existing gap. In the research journey, whatever the methodology, whatever the analytical part, the most important part is to find out your research gap. And I would like to make it very clear that research gap will be obtained for your literature survey. And literature survey is the fundamental, or you can say that is the foundation of your research building. Once you have the research gap, then you can frame your research objectives. How you can eliminate the gap to some extent. And once you will have the research gap you identify through the literature survey, then you frame the objectives and then you start framing the hypothesis. What is hypothesis? Hypothesis is the assumptions that it may be, yes, it may not be. It will be proved or disapproved later on depending on the data that you have collected. So let's sum up the things. First, we have to focus on the literature survey on my topic. I'm not talking about the title. Title is a small area. I'm talking about the entire topic that you are looking for. Then start your literature survey. And once you have the literature survey, your objective is to find out the literature gap. Depends on 10 to 15 years at least, depending on the good quality journal. And I already explained that how I will assign that, yes, this paper is a good quality journal, depends on the citation score. Mainly we will focus on the index journal Q1, Q2, not less than that for the Scopus. And once I will have some research gap, then we will focus on the research objectives. And once I will have the research objectives, then I start framing the hypothesis. Once I will start framing the hypothesis, then we will thinking about the data that we have collected by applying different kind of methods, that which will be the appropriate one. That means I'm talking about what test should be appropriate one depending on my data shape. It is skewed. It is following normal distribution. The data that I have collected is a parametric or non-parametric. Depend on these, we have so many tests, but it cannot, no one can tell you that, yes, this test will be applicable. It can be said only after the evaluating the nature of your data that you have collected. Once you will have these resources that, yes, my data is following parametric, my data is following non-parametric, depending on such conclusive evidence, we can thinking about the test. But before that, we have to go with the reliability test. Yes, my data is reliable for the test or not. It will be depend again on the data, which is known as Cronbach alpha. Less than 0.7 we cannot consider for a good consistency of the data, which is known as reliability. So my data has to be greater than 0.7. Once it is, then we can thinking for the test, but not before that. First, we have to check, yes, it is reliable or not. Then if my data is non-parametric, that means if it is not following the normal distribution curve, we can choose for non-parametric test. Say for Kuskal-Wallis, say for chi-square, and so many tests are there. Then the obtained result will tell us that whether my hypothesis, which already been fixed, can be considered or not. You know that in case of hypothesis, we will have the two hypotheses. One is known as null, another is known as alternatives. And depending on these, we will have the conclusion, results, and then conclusion. And finally, we will have the novelty. That is most important part in our research journey. That why we should consider, yes, your research is unique. Your research has some significance in the societal context, depending on the novelty that you supposed to approve. And these, your results should be cater objectives that you framed earlier, okay? So this is a nutshell that you can start your journey. And later on, in the upcoming videos, I will talking about the each and every test, parametric and non-parametric, regarding the data characteristics. I will explain later on, okay? That which kind of data is fit for which kind of statistical test, okay? Thank you. I think that it's clear to all of you that how it's just a nutshell introduction that how we can start our research journey, okay? Thank you very much.